Ta'if garrison in Syria was targeted by 2 drones. U.S. and coalition forces engaged one drone, destroying it, while the other drone impacted the base, resulting in minor injuries to coalition forces. Also, the same morning in Iraq, early warning systems indicated a possible threat approaching the air base at al-Assad, and base personnel sheltered in place as a protective measure. Though no attack occurred, sadly, a U.S. civilian contractor suffered a cardiac episode while sheltering and passed away shortly thereafter. And our deepest sympathies and condolences are with the loved ones of the individual who passed away. And as you know, the day before, on October 17th, U.S. military forces defended against 3 drones near U.S. and coalition forces in Iraq. In western Iraq, at al-Assad Air Base, U.S. forces engaged 2 drones, destroying one and damaging the second, resulting in minor injuries to coalition forces. Separately, in northern Iraq, U.S. forces engaged and destroyed a drone near Bashir Air Base, resulting in no injuries or damage. And while I'm not going to forecast any potential response to these attacks, I will say that we will take all necessary actions to defend U.S. and coalition forces against any threat. Any response, should one occur, will come at a time and a manner of our choosing. Now, in light of all of this activity, Secretary Austin continues to actively engage with his counterparts and leaders within the Middle East. Today, he conducted a series of calls, which included discussions with His Highness President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed of the United Arab Emirates, Amir Sheikh Tamim of Qatar, and Saudi Arabia Minister of Defense Khalid bin Salman Al Saud. Secretary Austin also spoke with Israeli Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant just a few moments ago. And during these calls, he reiterated U.S. support for Israel's right to defend itself from terrorist attacks, and also underscored the importance of safeguarding innocent civilians, both Palestinian and Israeli. He emphasized again that any country or any group thinking about trying to take advantage of the situation in Israel to try to widen the conflict should think twice and not doubt the resolve of the United States. It is our aim to avoid any regional expansion of Israel's conflict with Hamas, but we stand ready and prepared to protect and defend our partners and our interests, and we will act to do so. Readouts of these calls will be posted to the DoD website later today. And with respect to U.S. support to Israel, the first shipments of military aid, including munitions, began arriving in Israel last week and continue to arrive on a near-daily basis. This assistance is comprised of capabilities requested by Israel to include precision-guided munitions, such as joint direct attack munitions, small-diameter bombs, 155mm artillery ammunition, and other categories of critical equipment. In addition, Iron Dome interceptors from stocks that the United States has in country have been quickly provided to Israel. And in the days ahead, we'll be flowing additional Iron Dome interceptors so that Israel has the capabilities they need to sustain their Iron Dome defense systems and protect their citizens and cities from rocket attacks. We will leverage several avenues available to us to include our stocks and industry channels that reinforce the United States' unwavering and ironclad support for both the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli people. As always, the Department of Defense will continue to support, plan, and undertake these critical missions professionally and with the inherent right to protect our force. And with that, I will be happy to take your questions. We'll start with AP Tarkop.
Thank you, General Ryder. Could you also talk about, apparently there's a new round of attacks at al-Assad that is occurring either now or has happened today. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, thanks, Tara. I've seen some reporting on that. I don't have any details to provide right now, but certainly as more information becomes available, we'll pass that along.
And then more generally, as this violence has upticked since the hospital bombing, what protection measures are you taking, particularly like for the forces in Entente, where there's been so much activity over the years as fighters have tried to move weapons and people toward Hezbollah?
Yeah, certainly we take force protection extremely seriously, and we will continue to do so. I'm not going to get into specific force protection measures other than, again, when we have forces in harm's way, we're going to look at all possible efforts to ensure that they remain safe and are able to stay focused on their mission. So this is something that we'll continue to monitor, but again, we are going to take force protection very seriously.
But can you say like you've strengthened or taken additional force protection measures, and are you seeing more activity, more drone activity like in the last couple of days than you have, for the last few months?
We are certainly taking appropriate force protection measures to ensure the safety of our troops. Again, I'm not going to get into specifics. Clearly, this is an uptick in terms of the types of drone activity we've seen in Iraq and Syria. But again, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. Jeff.
Hi, sir. This is a sensitive question. There's a lot of talk among special operations veterans that when President Biden went to Israel, he had a picture taken with some service members who look like special operators. Can the Defense Department confirm, the White House took this picture down, that these were in fact special operators? And if so, are they? Is there a policy against having special operators have their picture taken?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I'd have to refer you to the White House on that. I just don't have any information to provide. Thank you. Let me go here to Dan, and then we'll come to Idris.
Thank you, General. These attacks in Syria and Iraq, the Pentagon commonly or often ascribes the blame on those to Iranian-backed militias or some similar description. Do you have the sense that's the case here?
So we're continuing to assess the nature of these attacks, and that's something that we'll continue to look very closely at. As you've mentioned, in the past we have seen Iranian-backed militia conduct these types of things, but as of right now, I don't have any specifics to provide.
More broadly related on Iran, do you have any update on whether or not you see Iran directly tied to the Hamas attack of October 7th?
No. At this point, again, the information that we have does not show a direct connection to the Hamas attacks on October 7th. As it relates to Iran, again, that's something that we'll continue to look closely at. All that to say, we do know, as you've heard others say, that Iran has a significant relationship with Hamas in terms of funding, training, and support. And so, again, in that regard, they certainly bear some responsibility. But again, no direct linkage to these attacks, and we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Let me go to Idris.
Just a clarification about the USS Carney. You said can't say for certain where or what the missiles were targeting. Can you say that do you believe that they were targeting the Carney, or do you believe they were not targeting the Carney at this point?
Again, what I provided at the top right now is what we know. Again, we'll continue to assess this.
Can you talk about what naval assets you have in total in the Eastern Med and Red Sea? I think there was the USS Mount Whitney yesterday that went there. How many ships do you have in total in the region right now?
Sure. So I'm not going to provide a laydown of all of our forces in the region, Idris, other than to say, as you know, that the USS Gerald Ford Strike Group does remain underway in the Eastern Mediterranean. The USS Mesa Verde is in the Mediterranean as well. We've got, as I mentioned at the top, the Eisenhower transiting the Atlantic Ocean right now en route to the Eastern Mediterranean. The Carter Hall and the Baton currently remain underway in the Gulf of Aden. I know there's been some questions about that, and I'm just going to leave it at that for right now. Yes, sir.
Earlier today, the State Department issued kind of a worldwide caution alert for Americans abroad. Given what we were talking about, some of these drone attacks and attacks on other U.S. facilities abroad, I'm curious, is there going to be some sort of blanket warning for U.S. service members and their families? Are there any fears that these attacks will be more geared towards U.S. service members, even if not just in the Middle East, but more broadly worldwide?
Yeah, so I'm not tracking any specific threats in that regard. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we do take force protection seriously no matter where we're serving, and so we'll continue to do that.
No general warning like State did.
Again, two separate things, right, in terms of State Department and its responsibility to warn U.S. citizens. The U.S. military, by virtue of our mission wherever we're serving, we're going to take appropriate force protection measures. But I'm not right now aware of any specific threats against U.S. service members and their families, which is what I think you're asking. Megan, I'm sorry, did you have a question? Okay. Let me go to the phone here real quick. Let me go to Gordon Lewbold, Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, hey, Pat. Just two questions. One is on attribution. Is there any reason to think that the perpetrators behind these attacks are not what they have been in the past? I know you're still investigating, but I'm just wondering if there's any reason to think there'd be anything different, one. And two, just to clarify, was there any American aircraft or other property damaged in any of these attacks? I can't remember if you said it specifically or not.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. So in terms of the attribution for these attacks, again, that's something that we're continuing to look at. And I'm not going to have any information to provide right now in terms of the impacts of those attacks beyond what I've provided. All right, let me go to Rebecca from BBC.
Hi, thanks for taking the question. I wondered if you can confirm or you had any comments on these reports that the IDF has been given the green light to enter Gaza.
So I've obviously seen the press reports on that. I'm not sure what that means as it relates to IDF operations. I would refer you to them to talk about their operations. Thank you. Let me go to Courtney.
The American or the contractor who died of the cardiac event, was he or she an American citizen?
I will get back to you on that.
And then, can you say how many drones were shot down, and what did the Carney use to shoot down the cruise missiles and the drones? Please.
Yeah, thanks. So I don't have any information to provide on the specifics in terms of what system the Carney used to take down. So if we're able to make that information available, we will. And then in terms of the number of drones, I think I kind of laid that out, right?
You said several.
Several, yeah, that's about as specific as I can get right now.
Okay, and then just one other, I think this is Idris's question, but I may be wrong. You said that you don't see any direct connection to this uptick in these recent attacks and to October 7th, but I wonder if you see any connection to this uptick, because it really, this is a departure from where it's been for the past several months. If you see any connection to what's happened after October 7th. So to the fact that the Israelis are talking about a massive ground invasion, they're already doing these airstrikes. Is it tied to that?
Yeah, so the reality is, Courtney, I don't want to allow my imagination to fill in the gaps and the supposition. Clearly there are tensions in the region, which is why you see us working so hard right now to make sure that we're keeping lines of communication open with regional leaders, to make sure that we're sharing information, and also for actors in the region to understand our message loud and clear about deterrence, to prevent potential miscalculation. Again, as we continue to look at this and analyze the nature of these attacks and attribute these attacks, we'll certainly know more, but that's where we're at right now. In the meantime, again, our focus is going to be continuing to ensure that we are deterring a potential broader regional conflict, as I mentioned, and also continuing to work closely with Israel to ensure they have what they need to defend themselves against future terrorist attacks. Fadi.
Thank you, John. So when you talked about the interception, you said this is a demonstration of the integrated air and missile defense. Were other nations or partners in the region did they contribute one way or the other to the interception, whether through information